Welcome to Rams Brawl. This is Derek Ciapala with Arlen Harris and Tommy Polley, both former Rams, back from the days of old, who are now with us live every week talking Rams football. Going to check in first right away. Arlen, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Nothing's really changed, right? We're still trying to figure out what football's going to look like, the high school front and all levels. But, I'm just glad we're back on the field. I know last week I mentioned we had a little virus scare, but everything's clear, so we're all go. So I'm good.
So you guys are back on the field now?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there they go. Tommy, what about you, man? How you doing?
Oh, no, I'm doing good. Like you said, like Arlen said, we back on the field. I'm with my team coaching. We're competing, getting better every day. So I'm happy to be back out there in the field, getting back to some type of normalcy in everyday life. But we still ain't full ball. We can't do one-on-ones with the linemen yet and do all that good stuff. But we're getting close. So hopefully this thing will keep rolling. If not, then I guess it's back to the house.
Are your states at all backing off the opening at all? Are they just standing pat? What's going on there?
No, we still going straight ahead. We was one of the last states in Illinois. That's what side I live on. We was one of the last states to open up. So actually, we're doing okay. I think the numbers went up a little bit in the last couple of days, probably because of Memorial Day. Everybody went out and gathered, but I mean, it's not a hot spot. Illinois is not a hot spot, so I think it's good on this side. What about you, Arlen?
Yeah, they got a little scared. People say they're testing more, so our numbers have gone up a little bit, but nothing too crazy as far as shutting down. I think St. Louis County put a thing out to where they're making masks mandatory, and St. Charles County, where I coach and live, it was the vote was close or whatever, but they're not making it mandatory. So they're just trying to take different precautions, with everything being opened up. But shoot, you're going to test as soon as you lose your front door. You don't know what's nothing going on. Everybody's business as usual.
It's been weird going out, have to go to the store, and if I enter a store, a Walmart or a Home Depot or whatever, I'm just seeing people living life normally now, even with this second wave going around. Very few people wearing masks. I'm wearing my mask. I'm like, well, I feel like the minority in this one. I'm like one of maybe 5 people wearing a mask. And I'm thinking, what is there? Did I miss a memo? But so we're actually looking at Steven Jackson, folks. And so Steven Jackson on Twitter posted back on June 10th, posted a video of him showing his football from when he recorded 1,000 yards rushing in, was it 6 consecutive seasons? Or was it 7?
Yep.
Okay,
6.
And then he's like, where's my next one, Rams? Calling out the Rams a bit for it. And lo and behold, on social media, you see it, the Rams sending him that very same type of football with the covering. Says he 7th player to rush yards in 8 consecutive seasons. 6 in NFL history. Make sure I say that right. 6 in NFL history. And that got me thinking about who Steven Jackson's a Ram. He left the Rams on, shall we say, not the world's best terms. You guys both play with him. You at least got to know him a little bit. And then we have the historical context. He's a leading rusher in Rams history. But I think in all of our minds, we don't really see him as the best Rams running back in history. So we want to evaluate today, who was Steven Jackson to you as a teammate, as a player? Where does he really fit in the scheme of Rams history, NFL history? And, let's play a little game with it, too. If he were to have been, say, on the Giants or the Eagles or another team that at least competed during the 2000s more than the Rams did, would his numbers have been different? That's kind of what I examined from you guys as well. So I guess first things first, Arlen, you played with Marshall. You got to play with Steven Jackson. What is your sense of who he was as a football player and running back?
No, without a doubt, he's a special player. I know when we talked about the running backs, the one week we were talking about him being not necessarily undervalued, but, there's a couple guys that were mentioned before him. I think, the team that he was on, he was the bell cow, and, kind of got overlooked a little bit of some of the things that he was able to accomplish. But I know playing beside him, I know his rookie year, he came in late, finishing up some school stuff, and right away you could tell he was hungry. He wasn't bashful. He was challenging Marshall. He wanted everybody to know in that meeting room, he's the guy. Like, not next. He's the guy. So he was hungry. And to be honest, man, even though Steven ran like as a punisher in the offense that we played in, man, he had decent hands. He ran routes. At times, people probably put a knock on him there. He felt like he danced too much, but I think he almost had an identity crisis because he tried to do some of the things smaller backs would do, but that's what really impressed me about him. He wasn't afraid to block. He was good on the edge. He was good inside. And, you mentioned the Giants, during that time, there was a couple of big backs still playing. Now, it was big backs, but when I mean him, he was kind of the exception to the rule, like a Brandon Jacobs. And, he make you miss. He make you pay for it. If you came in there, lackadaisical or flat-footed trying to tackle him. And if he was on any other team, like a pure pounding rushing team with a good line, I think he would have had better numbers. But I think with Mike, everybody know he wanted to stretch that field. Mike want that ball in the air. You know what I mean? And using Marshall, the way that's a totally different skill set and back. So to see them two work together, to kind of see the progression of them two playing together and then it becoming Steven's deal was not just fun to watch, but, I tip my hat off to Steve, man. I think he handled it well in that type of offense he played in.
Tommy, what about you? How did you view Steven Jackson?
Like Arlen said, he's a special player, so I ain't going to take nothing from him. But he's still the third back in Rams history to me. Could he make guys miss? Yeah. I think, like he said, he might have danced a little bit too much. I think the major factor he didn't have winning success. I think if you look back at Dickerson, they won a little bit while they was here. Everything went in the NFC, the West, maybe once, but they made the playoffs. And then Marshall, he did well, got Offensive Player of the Year, but then also won a Super Bowl and did things like that. So I think the overall package is a little bit more with those guys. I don't take anything away from what Steve did. I just think he played behind a lackluster line and they wasn't winning. And but I think the biggest question is, why does every player seem like that leaves here, a great player, have a problem with leave disgruntled? I think that's the biggest question. Why is that always happening? At some point in time, you got to look at maybe they're leaving disgruntled for a reason. Maybe the organization didn't treat them as their numbers say they probably should have been treated. Who knows? I don't know. I think that's a great question. But Steve Jackson could catch. He came in, like Arlen said, he came in letting you know, I'm here to take bust heads and take spots, even you, Marshall. Give me the ball. I'm ready to roll. He came in and played solid. We had a 1-2 punch that year with those two. Then Marshall, he carried the load for him and Marshall back, for the next 2 years, basically. And Marshall became the third down back a little bit. But I think he needs to. They should have been gave him the ball. I couldn't understand what all that was about anyway. When he was throwing it up, and I couldn't figure it out until you explained it to me that they should have been gave it to him, and he left disgruntled and all that good stuff. So hopefully they're back on good terms. I think now Steve is letting everybody know I should be a Hall of Famer. I think that's the next step in his career, making that case, and I think he's starting with just a small thing right there by saying 8 straight years I had 1,000 yards, game I do.
So I want to pause that for a second because there's a couple things you said, but I just want to hit on before we move into all that stuff you got to. Tommy, you faced him on the practice field. What was it like facing down against Steven Jackson?
It was good. I was a speedy linebacker, so I was agile. He was a bigger back, so I knew where he was going to be at. This is smaller backs that could be more elusive, that in the open and Mike offense that he could, that can get you kind of awkward. But a big back like Steve, you pretty much know it. For me, I'm gonna probably get there. I know where he's going to be at. Now just making the tackle. He a bigger back, just go through your form. But me, that's the only thing you about can do. Go through your form tackle, and I think things will work out. But me and Steve, we not really got into it, off banging in the NFL is you don't get that big collision or you don't get them big hits, thumpers like that in the inner squad stuff. Now, James Hodge running that lead when he was the lead blocker, yeah, that was a little different. But he was like 280 coming downhill. That was a load.
Wrong shoulder, huh?
Yeah, and you know, so you just better know what's coming because he's coming. But other than that, I didn't get really physical with a lot with Steve. But I can imagine on offense, like if we did have to go against him, it might have been a long day.
I asked that because we talk about big backs. You mentioned one of them, Arlen Brandon Jacobs. One that comes to mind is a Hall of Famer. You mentioned Hall of Fame for Steven Jackson making his case. Well, the Bus, notoriously, one of the more well-known big backs in recent history. Where do you rank Steven Jackson in terms of the big backs of the era? How does he fit into that conversation?
I mean, he's up there again, man. I'm anal when it comes to backs and breaking. Like him and Bus are two totally different. I mean, Steve was tall. You know what I mean? Steve had weight, was thick and tall. With a Bus, you know what I mean? He was super thick and more compact. But if you're gonna bunch them into the same thing, I think Steve you gotta put him in there. You know what I mean? Because he was a bigger back. He clearly had success. You had to account for him. Week when everybody played him. And again, I was more impressed because he was able to, by being in Mike's offense, utilize some skill sets that typically a back his size don't get that opportunity to really showcase. You know what I mean? He was out there doing posts out the backfield. I mean, he wasn't motioning much and getting out to that slot stuff like they were using 2-8, but he was running routes and seams, and he had to be accountable in pass protection, and they screened him. They I thought that was effective when they were trying to get him out in space and let him make a couple people miss and ride out. So I think when you talk about the Bus and Brandon Jacobs, ain't he not in that category, but I don't know if you say like ED, I don't know if you say what's the back right now with the Titans?
Derrick Henry?
Like Derrick Henry, to me, he can't do what Steve do. I know they've done some screens and stuff like that. He a big, powerful, fast back, but I don't think he can do what Steve do. You know what I mean? And he's had some success. So, I think SJ's up there.
Tom, what about you?
I think the question is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? There's no question he's a Hall of Famer. He got the numbers. He was always the focal point of the offense. You had to stop him. So the question is, does he go in the first ballot? I don't know. That may be a stretch right there, but I think he gets in maybe the second time around, or the third time.
Yeah, I think if Ike B had to wait like that, and even though it was a log jam at receiver, I definitely don't think, unfortunately, he's going to get in on that first one.
And then comparable with the Bus. Yeah. Who?
Edge is still waiting too. Edgerrin James.
No, he just got in. No, he got in with this class right here.
No, my role.
Yeah, that's right.
He just got in with this class right here.
Yeah.
Fred Taylor didn't get in. Now, Fred Taylor was a freak that maybe should.
Freak.
He told the man for 8-9 years, 10 years for Jacksonville. Where he was the guy.
Yeah,
big
wrong.
back,
Jeez.
225, run 4.3.
Mm-hmm.
It got wiggle.
And I remember Fred Taylor. Jeez.
Yeah, Fred's special. Fred stay healthy and win some more games too. Like we talking about Steve, and it's not even close. Fred.
And I think those two right there, like if you had Fred or you had Jackson on the board, who you like? Who you gonna get?
Look,
I gotta go get
loyal
that
to a phone, but I need that. When I saw Fred T with that mirror visor come out of Florida, boy, he
was doing the same thing in the league, cutting back on. So him and S-Jack played with two bad organizations. They didn't win a lot of games, and therefore the perception of them is always not as much as a guy who went to the Super Bowl. So I think that's the biggest thing. But I think both of them eventually get in. Fred Taylor was awesome in college and in the pros, and Steven Jackson was too.
So You guys played in a pretty unique era at running backs. I'm thinking of LaDainian Tomlinson comes to mind for me. He was amazing. Edgerrin James, Marshall Faulk, Steven Jackson. In your era alone, who was the best running back that you saw or played with?
For me, best running back was Daniel Thomas in my era. I came in with him. I might got a little biased on it because we was in the same draft class. But, he's first ballot Hall of Famer. He was the focal point since day one. He toted the mail since day one. So, for me, he was the best in the era. I played against Fred Taylor in college. I was a pup then, so I didn't get all that action. I played against Edgerrin James in college and in the league. He was tough. But I think it was more the offense where they stretched things, though that kind of helped them out too. But LaDainian Thomas, he was pretty much the guy. They just handed it to him, he threw it to him. I think one game I was watching a highlight the other day on Twitter. It was like a 10-minute highlight. They played in one game against Denver. He had the ball. They gave him the ball like 50 times or something like that. He had like 200 yards rushing and 100-something yards receiving. It was amazing. But he was still running late in the game as he was in the first quarter. He still had that burst. He still had that agility, things like that. That's one thing about LT. He was always in prime shape, prime condition. So for me, that like I said, I'm biased, but because we was in the same draft class. Don't take that away from those other guys. But from the numbers wise, first ballot Hall of Fame.
Arlen?
Yeah, I think that was a special era or that 5-year pocket or whatever you want to call it. I was a rookie in 2003, coming in seeing some special guys. Marshall still had a couple of years left. But you just go through our division or just in general. You had Sean Alexander. He ran for like 2 stacks. Priest Holmes. Brian Westbrook was still in the conversation. Tiki Barber. I can go on and on. There was still good, backs at that time. You go each team. You go somebody where I feel like the past 2 years, these puppies, like a Saquon, Zeke, now that you got a handful of special, AP came out on fire, and Adrian Peterson. So, now I don't think there's as many backs. Again, don't get me started. I think that's because of the whole, running back by committee thing. So they're okay getting 2-3 solid backs. But I think at that time, you still had special guys or that one guy in that city that was toting the mail that you had to respect. So, I think that was a special time. And like TP playing linebacker, I'm pretty sure week to week, they, you was facing decent runners.
Think of these guys in their peak. This is from the 2000s. These guys in their peak: Ricky Williams, Clinton Portis, Amon Green, Fred Taylor.
Yep, played with him.
Priest Holmes. Talk about him. Jamal Lewis. You mentioned Sean Alexander, Tiki Barber, Edgerrin James, LaDainian Tomlinson. I'm reading a top 10 list right now. Other names that were mentioned: Warwick Dunn, Thomas Jones, Corey Dillon.
Yeah. Remember Thomas Jones.
Remember Larry Johnson at his peak?
Yeah.
Brian Westbrook, Steven Jackson, Deuce McAllister, Willie Parker, Rudy Johnson. That was an era for running backs.
And the game was a different game. Like you said, it was in the box. It was coming downhill. You knew it was coming. And that's what type of game it was. It was who was going to get broke. With today's game is a little bit different. A little bit more finesse, a little bit more scheme-oriented. Back then, it was who was going to get broke. Because you know their plays, you know our plays. Now, who going to fold first? Who going to blink first? And that's how I usually went.
Even in an era where you had Peyton Manning slinging the football and Tom Brady slinging the football, it was still that kind of grind?
Well, with Peyton Manning wasn't the Peyton Manning until he got Edgerrin James. But his first year he threw like 30 interceptions. Edgerrin James coming, now that play action works a little better. When you sticking it in that gut and taking it out on that zone stuff. Then they come out. They had the 2 tight ends. And then with the long zone stuff, and then fake it and then throw it down the field. Tom Brady, New England, they was definitely in the box. They had the big running back. What his name was? Johnson. Antoine. I forgot his name.
Lawrence Veroni was there for a while. Antoine Smith.
It was Antoine Smith. That's the guy we played in the Super Bowl. But he was 240. He was a low. Then he had the fullback. I forgot his name, 44. So they was in the box. Tom Brady wasn't throwing the ball around the ballpark when we played them in that first Super Bowl or early in that year. It was more handed off, play action pass, grinded out game, things like that. Did he make throws when he had to make throws? Yeah, he did. But it was more of a team-oriented concept. He wasn't a sling it out, throw around game. No.
You had to worry about in his first. I think when they had Troy, he was the first. Like, you know, when they started getting Wes Welker, Armando, like Troy they try to create matchups with like one guy. So New England wasn't who they were then. Yeah.
So, Arlen, where would all those guys you listed? Where does Steven fit in when you talk about the legacies of that decade? And where does Steven fit? Where does he fit in?
Oh, and that one that we just mentioned.
All those names.
Man, that's tough because I'm a man. Like Priest Holmes, you talking about LT? And them dudes was winning. Like it's unfortunate that he wasn't able to get those wins. But again, skill set, opportunity. He's in the mix, but he's going to be closer to the bottom because look what Sean Alexander was able to accomplish. Tiki Barber in the Super Bowl. Byron Westbrook, he got all-purpose yards. He all over the place returning kicks. You know what I'm saying? So that's an uphill battle when you start comparing some of those guys. And I don't know, like Priest, I forget, he had crazy touchdowns. Larry Johnson broke the whole stigma of a Penn State back. He came out on fire and did almost like what he did to Marshall, pushed Priest out. It's you talking about the bus and Fast Willie Parker. He in front of him. Fast when he was at Pittsburgh. He had that 1 year he went on fire, but he wasn't as consistent as Steve. So I don't think you can mention him in the same breath as Steven. I don't know. I'm trying to remember some of the other backs that you said. Deuce. I forget. Didn't Deuce have a smaller back? They try to not 1-2 punch, but he would give him a little
Reggie
break.
Bush came in there.
Yeah, like
Reggie Bush came in there.
So, and Deuce was what it was too. Deuce didn't have wiggle like Steve, but Deuce was downhill. Like, here I come. I'm gonna get some yaks. He was a decent back, but like I take
all those backs you say, they 2 1/4, ain't they?
I'll give you that. Oh, for sure. I'll give you that. I will give you that.
That's all I'm saying. When they get late and heavy, and that's the division. That's an old school division, that NFC West, right? With Seattle and San Fran. They trying to run downhill and dunk, play action, get you with something over the top. And they got some, so they can. It don't matter with their backs, but they got an offensive line that's pretty. Those lines are pretty good. I think all those teams are going to do backs by committee, though. They don't have them special guys.
So you both believe that in the end, Hall of Famer, not first timer, played in a darn good era though for running backs.
Oh, for sure.
So there you go. I can say one thing about watching Steven Jackson play. You knew he was facing 8-9 men in a box every week. There was a point that Rams' offense was so bad, he was pretty much all they had. So hats off to him. And might say, well, look at his numbers. He didn't have any of those in the years where he was like 2,000 yards rushing. Well, when you're facing 8-9 dudes in the box and getting beat up that way, it's a different game. Bad offensive line. All right, so Tommy, you mentioned a couple of things. Players leaving the Rams disgruntled. We've talked about that. We had a few episodes back where we really hammered the Rams on it, and kind of just wanted to back around and just ask this: his issues with the team were back in the 2012-ish, 2011-ish. You left mid 2000s. Eric Dickerson, the way he left was 87 when he was traded. We've had some guys come and go in between then. Do you think the culture with the Rams has changed now at all?
I see him putting some more effort. But I say before, they didn't have where the players come back and interact with the organization. They didn't invite the players back often. But now in the last couple of years, I see they are inviting the players back more often, doing different things. They are more of the high-profile players, but they're still inviting them back and doing things like that. So I think they're trying to do some things. I think Eric Dickerson, when they moved back, and he showed that the player alumni voice is strong and they do matter. So, and he got the coach up out of there basically, with Jeff Fisher up out of there. So, I think they're trying to do some things, but they could improve. They could do even more what they did in the past. So we'll see. That's the only thing you can say. Now that they know better, they should do better. So I'm gonna give them some. I guess in the next year or two, you can kind of see some of the things that they do that's tangible. I'm watching.
Arlen, what do you think?
Yeah, likewise. I see a couple of guys that they shout out, go to the game, some of the same ones. I feel like I see a lot of, Hole, Bruce, I think Marshall might have peeked out there a couple of times. Guys just being engaged because I know there's a lot of even Rams that played here in St. Louis that, live, within that vicinity closer to, to Cali that can jump over there and come check them out. And, I know Agnew, there's still some former players that are involved even within the organization. So I agree. I think it's not the same. And with them trying to, just build their franchise back up out there, it only makes sense to get those guys engaged.
Okay, so heading over here, I can't believe it's July 2nd. Camp's coming real quick. And we still haven't gone through this roster all the way yet. And we wanted to touch on the corners. And this is what we had planned last week, and the discussion ran pretty well. And I want to get you guys the corners this year on the roster. See what your thoughts are on what the Rams have put together at corner for the Rams right now. Corner and safety, big names for us are Taylor Rapp, Jalen Ramsey, John Johnson's back, Troy Hill, who has been up and down his career, and then you have a bunch of guys who are coming in behind him. When you see this starting four for corner and safety, plus the guys behind him, that includes Adonis Alexander trying to make the team, Dante Dion, who played last year for the team, played well actually in limited action. Jordan Fuller, rookie from Ohio State, go Buckeyes. Diane Lake, I had to throw it out there. Come on, man. Got to show some pride. What are you guys' take right now on this unit, this defensive backfield? In the past, in my opinion, the last 2 years, I thought both years they put out talented units, only for them to not live the expectations to the point where we saw Marcus Peters traded last year, to where they parted ways with. I didn't want to say it. Because he went to the Dolphins for a nothing pick. Where do you guys go? Where do you see the secondary now?
I think they decent. I think they got what they need. I know we talked about defense before. I'm not as skeptical as I am with the linebackers, but I think they got young guys and some of the mixed, guys got at least 3 years. They're in that little pocket. I know. I joke around with TP's guy Ramsey. I feel like they need more turnovers. I think they're a solid group, but it's clearly not enough turnovers. And I think what was it? Your Rap, he ended up third in tackles. Troy had 2 picks. You know what I mean? I need Ramsey. He's the name guy. Clearly he's respected, but to me, getting used to the coaches who are loving him. And when we had Aeneas Williams and all that, man, they getting that ball. You got to find a way to turn the ball over. But that would be my probably thing. I know TP could get probably a little bit more in depth, but as far as skills, they got a couple young guys I think is going to step it up. That's coming into that range where they vested now. You start talking about 3-4 years you vested, you should be able to let your hair down and fly around and stop playing. Let's make a name and you know what I mean, and protect our defense.
Well, TV, what are your thoughts?
Like Arlen said, I think they are a little decent to above average. And the reason why I say that is, you got Jalen too. Like Jalen can always get on one of the other guy's best receiver and lock down that whole field, and we can roll coverage over to help Hill out. I think Troy Rapp is a good player. He showed some flashes last year. Like you say, led a team. Third and team in tackles, things like that. But I think they're gonna be okay. I don't think it's with the pass rush. and you got one side of the field being locked down by Jalen, I think that he'll help him out a lot. I think he'll be more comfortable with the organization. Of course, it's going to be hard getting comfortable with the system right away because it's a new system. They're not being able to get those reps in the off season. That's going to really hurt them. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. You got a new defensive coordinator coming in. You can't get those reps to make it make all those adjustments, things like that. I mean, it only can hurt them. But what you can do is tell everybody, hey, get your man. And Jalen, you by yourself, we're going to roll coverage over that. I mean, that can help you out. And with a good pass rush. I think with some of those guys that they got, if they get after the pass rush, I mean, with Aaron Donald and some of the other guys, I think that'll put, lighten the load on the DBs. I think Ramsey, he'll cause more turnovers. And Johnson, I think he has to make more plays. But I know Ramsey's going to be ready to play. Contract year, he trying to get that big money. So I'm sure he's going to be out there flying around. But is there questions in the secondary? Yeah, it is. But in their division, I think they should be pretty good to be, above average.
I've been wrong in the past, about this. A couple of years ago on the show, considering they had Aqib Talib, they had Marcus Peters, they had Joyner back there, and he's coming off a career year. I thought this was one of the most talented secondaries in the league and probably in team history, and they never lived up to it. Why has the Rams secondary not been fluid in the last couple of years? Why is it to the point now where they had this turnover, had to go out and get a guy like Jalen Ramsey, giving up 2 first-round picks for him?
I think they played decent. I mean, what type of secondary you was projecting with the guys that they had? I mean, I think they played all right with the talent they had. I wasn't really sold on Rick Coleman. I mean, he was an average player. They had an old safety back there. I mean, he was 40. What's the kid? What's the guy name?
I'm having a moment.
What's the safety name?
Weddle.
Me too.
Eric Weddle.
Yeah, here you go. Weddle. Eric Weddle. So I mean, he was my age out there. So I think they played okay considering they didn't have all the talent. Like you said, Rap came on, but I think with Peterson, they let Peterson go. I don't think it was his play. I think it was more of a character. I think how he was and how the organization was might have been a clash. I don't think it was his play because he went right over to the Ravens and made all pro. So it couldn't have been his play, right? It had to be something else that wasn't making him comfortable. Whatever that was.
He wasn't. They weren't comfortable with him playing his style. He was more of a guy you let him roam a bit, and the Rams didn't want to let him roam, but they wanted him to be able to play man to man. And the moment Talib came back in 2018 from his injury and let him be the first string, move over to second, and Peters to roam a little more, and they played better. So the team kept catching Peters out there because Peters is a risk taker. Couldn't do that when you're supposed to be the shutdown guy. So I just thought that was, in the end, a bad match. The Rams wanted something from Peters on the field that he couldn't give them, but the Ravens could. But that's just how I view it. I still found disappointing because Peters was a turnover machine, but I think back to that Saints game in 2018 in New Orleans, sorry. And in New Orleans, him blowing that, oh my gosh. You guys remember that play? Gets burned. This is week 9. He gets burned so badly that Michael Thomas just airmailed that game for a touchdown. And that 45-35 win. So I just would remember he took a lot of heat.
45-35, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, he wasn't the only one.
Oh, I know. But hey, the Rams had come back in that game, and they were in it.
We like guys. I think he wanted to win the game. I remember he busted coverage. I mean, what happens sometimes.
He was the scapegoat, I think.
Of course,
because when he messed up, they weren't just messed up. They were out there for the world to see. They were highlight reel bad. But I think it's when you're left on an island as a quarterback, that's going to happen. When you blow it, you blow it. Arlen, what do you think?
More zone coverage.
Yeah,
I agree. It's pretty. Yeah, I mean, you said it all right there.
So as you hit the 20, he gave his view overall. For you, 2020, how do you expect this defensive backfield to gel? What do you expect from them as a unit?
I think, like Tommy said, that depending on the new scheme, I think coming in there and making sure they, play together, they gel. I expect Ramsey to have a big year too. He gonna make it known he's the guy, and then hopefully everybody follows his lead and show that excitement. I think it's funny, not to get off subject, but just even at the smaller level of high school, our kids are flying around because it's such a window that they haven't been involved. So I think when these dudes come back, man, they're going to be flying around, anxious to mix things up, eager to learn, eager to go out there and improve themselves. So hopefully they just put in the right position to be successful. But I think if Ramsey, if they use him as the leader back there, which he already is, and they go off of his lead, and Rapp's only going to get better. I like Johnson at safety. He liked to come downhill and mix it up a little bit. He had 2 picks last year, so I think they're coming off of a high. I think they had some success without getting overshadowed by Ramsey, but I think it's going to get picked up this year.
All right, guys. So there you go. There is the show today. Any final statements you guys want to make as you roll out of here? I'm going to go to Tommy first. Anything, man?
Nope.
I got a question for Tommy.
Yes, sir.
Man, I saw when Steven Jackson showed his football and tweeted it out, he thanked Artis. I thought he was gone. I didn't know he still worked for the Rams. Remember Artis, Twilton?
Nope.
You remember Artis?
CTE. I don't remember.
Oh my gosh.
What?
Yeah,
he was like one of the few black dudes that worked up there was roaming. He was the guy. But nah. All right, never mind, dude.
I was young. I was in my own way. I wasn't paying none of no mind. None of them guys. Who the decision maker?
An artist is a stickler. He is a stickler when it comes to meeting everything. Everything has to be squared away with him. And to deal with artists he's been there for a long time. I'm surprised you remember him, Arlen, honestly.
Yeah, nah, definitely. I mean, Artis was cool. You know what I mean? But that's when he shouted him out, I could have swore I saw him on somebody else's sideline last year. I thought he was gone. I didn't know he was still with the Rams.
He moved with the Rams. He's still there.
Man, that's crazy. He probably got some stories. But yeah.
Hopefully get him on our show one day. One day. All right, folks. It is time for us to roll. July 4th weekend is upon us. Hopefully you guys stay safe, stay healthy. I hope you guys out there with your players are able to stay healthy and keep them from getting themselves sick. Follow us on Twitter, please, at Rams Brawl. You can follow me on Twitter. Ciapala can follow Arlen. Where, Arlen?
Arlen Harris, 33, and also train Run It.
Run it! You took it right. Let me do it, huh? Hey, you get me on the commercial.
And Tommy at where?
At T Polley 29.
So follow us there. We'll be back next week, and I think it's time to start previewing these divisions, guys. We're getting close. It's time to start looking at these divisions. And where do you guys want to start next week? What division we want to start first with?
We got to tackle that. What Cam Newton them going to do over there in that division.
All right, so there you go. AFC East. We'll be back. We'll preview that next week on Rams Brawl. We're out here.
See you.